Force yourself to be happy even when life feels heavy. Let me ask you something. Have you ever sat in silence, surrounded by people, and still felt completely alone? Have you ever smiled just to make others feel comfortable while a storm was quietly raging inside you? If that sounds familiar, you're not broken, you're human, and this message is for you. Welcome message. Hi, beautiful soul. If you've clicked on this video, it's probably because life has felt a little too heavy lately. Maybe you're carrying more than you let on. But today, I want to have a conversation that feels like a deep breath. We're going to talk about how to force yourself to be happy, not in a fake -it-till-you-make-it kind of way, but in a soul-healing, life-shifting way. Let's dive in. Imagine waking up on a cold morning with a heaviness in your chest you can't quite explain. There's no big crisis that day, no loud disaster waiting outside your door, just that quiet, persistent ache. That silence that whispers to you that something's missing, even when your life looks fine from the outside. And in that moment, when you stand in front of the mirror brushing your teeth or making your coffee with your thoughts racing, you are presented with a choice. Maybe you don't realize it yet, but it is a choice. The choice to let that feeling carry you deeper into the gray, or the choice to say, today, I will look for the light, even if it's just a sliver. That's what it means to force happiness. And I don't mean the kind of forced happiness that puts a fake smile on your face while your heart is breaking. I'm not talking about pretending your pain doesn't exist. I'm talking about reaching for joy when joy feels like the most unreasonable, faraway thing in the world. It is the quietest, most courageous kind of rebellion. It is a form of self-rescue. We've been taught that happiness is supposed to arrive, like a reward after we've fixed all our problems, cleared all the clutter, and healed every wound. We think it's something that happens after the divorce, after the kids leave, after the diagnosis, after the career settles or the finances stabilize. But the truth is, happiness rarely shows up uninvited. It must be in, even before it's earned, even before it feels real. You do not wait for happiness, you create it. And sometimes, yes, you have to force it. Forcing happiness, especially when life is heavy, is not denial, is determination. It's the decision to not let the weight of your circumstances write your entire story. It is the deep, soulful understanding that while you may not control every storm, you do have some control over how you sail through it. And that control, that choice, that's everything. When we make the conscious effort to choose happiness even in small doses, we're doing more than just cheering ourselves up. We are rewiring our brains. We are forming new patterns, telling our nervous system it's okay. You're safe. There is still something beautiful here. Neuroscience tells us this is real. The brain, as rigid as it sometimes feels, is flexible. It learns, it adapts. When you smile not because you feel like it, but because you're claiming, that moment you're sending a message to your entire body that it's okay to feel good again. Let me tell you something real. There have been days-long hard days where I've stood at the edge of my own emptiness and thought, I can't do this again. Not today. I've felt like a shell of myself. We all have. We all walk through deserts. And the hardest part is that no one else can feel it for you. You can be surrounded by people and still feel like you're drowning in your own skin. And yet, in those moments, the only lifeline I've ever found that works, the only one that truly pulls me back, is that small, stubborn act of choosing to reach for something good. It might be stepping outside just to feel the sun touch your skin. It might be listening to a song that reminds you of who you were before the world tried to shrink you. It might be sitting in silence and reminding yourself, I am still here. I am still here. That is forcing happiness. That is showing up for your own soul. That is power. You see, people often think that waiting until you feel better is the right way, that once the sadness lifts or the stress fades, then the happiness will return. But here's the problem with that. Sadness, heaviness, they don't have expiration dates. They linger, they echo. They try to settle in and convince you that this version of life, this dulled, disconnected version, is all that's left. And if you wait too long, if you let the silence win, it becomes your new normal. Asterisk, that's why you can't wait to feel happy. You have to act like someone who believes in joy. Even when you don't, you have to walk like someone who remembers that she's worthy of laughter even if her heart has forgotten how it sounds. You have to speak like someone who trusts that peace will find her again, even if her voice trembles, because it will, but only if you make space for it. There's something spiritual about this kind of decision, because when you force yourself to be happy, what you're really doing is telling life, you don't get to define me by my pain. You're telling your past, you don't own me. You're telling the mirror, I am more than what I've survived. That is sacred work, and I know it's not easy. Especially when you've lived through years, decades, maybe of being the strong one, the silent one, the caregiver, the sacrificer. It's so easy to forget yourself in the process of holding everyone else together. It's so easy to look up one day and realize you don't recognize the woman in the mirror anymore. And that's where this practice becomes even more critical, because forcing happiness is also how you begin to remember yourself. You remember the girl who used to dance without waiting for permission. You remember the woman who used to speak her truth without apology. You remember the version of you who still exists beneath the layers of loss and expectation and exhaustion. This isn't about pretending everything's okay. This is about declaring that you are still okay, even when the world isn't. This is about becoming your own safe place, your own light. Because you're not here just to survive. You're here to feel, to laugh from the belly, to cry when needed, to live fully. And sometimes, the first step to living fully is deciding that you're going to find beauty even when your heart is sore and your soul feels tired. So today, if the world feels a little too loud, if the silence feels too deep, if your thoughts feel too heavy, take a moment. Breathe. Remind yourself that joy is not selfish. Happiness is not frivolous. It is necessary. It is healing. It is strength in motion. You do not need anyone's permission to choose it. You do not need to earn it. You just need to want it, Tand. Then take one brave small step toward it. That step might be making your bed, or calling a friend, or simply saying out loud, "Today, I choose to feel better than I did yesterday." You may not feel it right away, but with each step, each choice, each whisper of self-love, you will feel something shift. And one day, without even realizing it, that forced smile will turn into a real one. Not because the weight is gone, but because you got stronger, because you showed up, because you remembered your power. You know, one of the most powerful things I've ever learned is this. The most important conversation you will ever have in your life is the one you're having with yourself. Not the one with your family, not the one with your friends, not even the one with the world. It's the one that takes place quietly, privately inside your own mind. That voice, that whisper, that running commentary that plays all day long, that voice creates your reality. And for so many of us, that voice has been shaped by years of criticism, rejection, shame, and fear. Maybe it started when you were a child and someone made you feel small. Maybe it came from a partner who chipped away at your confidence over time. Maybe it was the world constantly sending the message that who you are is not quite enough. So now that voice inside doesn't speak with love, it speaks with limits. It says, "You can't do that. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are?" And the saddest part, you believe it. You don't even question it. But let me tell you something. That voice is not your truth. That voice is not your soul. That voice is a collection of old stories, outdated beliefs, and other people's pain that got passed on to you. And if you don't consciously reclaim that conversation, if you don't learn to interrupt those thoughts and rewrite them, they will run your life. They will decide for you what you can have, what you can be, and what you deserve. And they will keep you small, quiet, afraid. So when I say reclaim the conversation in your mind, I mean take back your power. Take back the pen. Stop letting that old wounded part of you be the author of your present and future. You have a choice. Every single day you have a choice to listen to a different voice, the voice of your soul, the voice of your healing, the voice that says, "You are worthy, you are beautiful, you are capable, you are allowed to be happy." But this doesn't happen overnight. Oh no, this is work. This is a process. Because the brain loves what's familiar, even if that familiarity is painful. If you've spent 20, 30, 40 years repeating the same harmful messages to yourself, your mind is going to default to them. That's what it knows. So when you start trying to speak differently, to say, "I am enough," or "I deserve peace," or "I am lovable," your brain might resist. It might say, "That's not true. That's not who we are." But you keep saying it anyway. You keep choosing the better thought. You keep pushing back against the negativity because that is how change happens. You do not need to earn the right to be okay. You do not need to explain why you're tired. You do not need to carry everything alone. You just need to pause, breathe, and choose you. Not once, not occasionally, but over and over again. Every single day. Because when you do, when you finally stop waiting for someone else to save you, and you start saving yourself, that's when life starts to open up. That's when the colors come back. That's when your laugh returns, unforced and full. That's when the weight begins to lift, not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally prioritizing the one thing that really matters, your peace. There comes a point in every woman's life when she must decide deep in her bones that her peace is more important than pleasing other people, that her joy, her mental clarity, her wholeness are not things to be negotiated or put on the back burner for someone else's comfort. And that decision, it's not selfish, it's sacred. It is the moment you reclaim your right to live life on your terms. We are taught from such a young age to be agreeable, to smile even when it hurts, to accommodate, to keep the peace especially at the expense of our own. We are conditioned to stretch ourselves thin to carry everyone else's burdens while pretending ours are light. And the result? A generation of women who are tired in their souls, who are walking through life with smiles on their faces and storms in their hearts, and no one knows. Because we've become masters at pretending. But what happens when the pretending becomes too heavy? When the weight of always being okay becomes unbearable? What happens when you wake up one morning and realize you've lost yourself trying to hold everything and everyone together? Let me tell you something. You were not born to abandon yourself. You were not born to shrink, to silence, or to disappear in the name of being easy to love. You were born to take up space, to speak, to exist as whole. But you can't do that if you are constantly betraying your own soul to avoid conflict, or guilt, or rejection. At some point, you have to choose. Choosing yourself is not loud. It doesn't have to look like slamming doors or cutting people off or burning bridges. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's simply saying no when everything in you wants to say yes just to be liked. Sometimes it's walking away from a conversation that doesn't honor your spirit. Sometimes it's turning your phone off and choosing rest instead of productivity. Sometimes it's crying in the car because you finally told someone what you really needed and you didn't apologize for it. And I want you to know you don't owe anyone an explanation for your healing. You don't have to justify your boundaries. You don't have to prove your worth. If something robs you of your peace, if it drains you every time you engage with it, whether it's a relationship, a job, a habit, or even a thought, you have the right to release it. I know it's not always easy. I know that guilt can come crashing in like a wave, especially if you've been the one everyone counts on, especially if you've been the rock, the caretaker, the fixer. When you start saying, I can't do this anymore, it might shake people. It might upset the balance they're used to. But listen to me. If your peace depends on constantly making other people comfortable, it is not peace, it's performance. And performance is exhausting. You deserve rest. Not just physical rest, but emotional rest. You deserve to be surrounded by people who pour into you, not just pull from you. People who see your soul, not just your service. People who celebrate your boundaries, not punish you for them. Because the people who truly love you, the ones who are meant to walk with you, will want you to be whole. They will want you to be well. But the first person who has to want that for you is you. You cannot wait for someone to give you permission to start living differently. You cannot keep hoping that if you just give a little more or hold on a little longer, you'll finally feel seen. You have to decide. You have to choose yourself even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary. And let's be honest, there will be grief. There will be grief in letting go of the roles you've played. The people who only loved you when you made yourself small. The version of you that survived by staying silent. But on the other side of that grief is freedom. On the other side of that grief is a life where you get to breathe again, where you get to feel joy without guilt, where you get to walk into a room and not wonder if you're too much or not enough. That freedom starts with one decision. I am no longer available for anything that costs me my peace. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every relationship deserves access to the deepest parts of you. You are allowed to be discerning. You are allowed to choose quiet over chaos, solitude over surface-level company, depth over distraction. And yes, sometimes that will mean being misunderstood. Sometimes it means people will think you've changed. They'll be right. You have changed. You're evolving. You're growing into the woman you were always meant to be. The woman who no longer defines herself by how well she manages everyone else's emotions. The woman who is deeply in touch with what she needs, what she wants, and what she will no longer tolerate. There is nothing more powerful than a woman who has made peace with the idea that she doesn't need to be everything to everyone. There is nothing more magnetic than someone who knows how to protect her own energy. And when you start walking in that truth, when you start showing up fully, authentically, unapologetically, inspires others to do the same. You give them permission to reclaim themselves too. So I ask you, when was the last time you gave yourself yourself? When was the last time you asked, what do I really want? And actually listened? When was the last time you chose your own voice over someone else's expectations? Because if you're always choosing peace for others and war within yourself, that is not peace. That is abandonment. And you deserve so much more than that. This is not about cutting off the world. This is about coming home to yourself. This is about remembering that you are not here to live a life of constant compromise. You are here to live a life that feels true, and true joy. True joy begins the moment you decide your peace is non-negotiable. That your heart, your mental health, your spirit, they matter. Asterisk. You do not need to earn the right to be okay. You do not need to explain why you're tired. You do not need to carry everything alone. You just need to pause, breathe, and choose you, not once, not occasionally, but over and over again, every single day. Because when you do that, when you finally stop waiting for someone else to save you and you start saving yourself, that's When life starts to open up, that's when the colors come back. That's when your laugh returns, unforced and full. That's when the weight begins to lift, not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally prioritizing the one thing that really matters, your peace. There's a quiet kind of suffering that doesn't always get spoken aloud. It's the ache of feeling disconnected, not just from others, but from yourself. And sometimes that ache comes from holding on to anger, to blame, to betrayal that was never yours to carry. In the first place, there's pain in being hurt by someone you trusted, but there's even deeper pain in carrying that hurt around for years, like a wound that never got the chance to heal. And here's the truth. At some point, for your own peace, for your own sanity, for your own liberation, you've got to let go. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It doesn't mean saying it was okay. Letting go means choosing your future over your past. It means releasing yourself from the grip of a story that no longer serves who you're becoming. It means saying, I deserve joy, even if they never said sorry. It means reclaiming your energy from people who never knew how to hold it with care. Some people will never give you the closure you deserve. Some people won't admit how they hurt you. Not because they don't know, but because acknowledging it would mean facing their own shame. You have to decide, do I want to be right or do I want to be free? Because sometimes the power is not in confrontation. Sometimes the power is in the quiet release. In choosing to forgive, not because they earned it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness, my friend, is not a gift to the other person. It's a gift to yourself. It's saying, I will not give you the power to keep hurting me by holding on to this. It's understanding that bitterness poisons the vessel that carries it. And you were not made to be bitter. You were made to be whole, to laugh again, to breathe deeply again, to love fully and wildly without fear that you'll break all over again. I know it's not easy. I know how much it hurts when someone you gave your heart to couldn't hold it, when someone you gave your trust to shattered it. And for a long time, that pain might have been the thing that connected you to the memory. You might have felt like if you let it go, then what they did didn't matter. But that's not true. The letting go is proof that it mattered. It mattered so much that it changed you. But now, you get to decide how it changes you. Will it close your heart or open your soul? Will it harden you or soften you with wisdom? You are not weak for letting go. You are not naive for choosing to move on. You are courageous. You are declaring that your healing matters more than your history. And sometimes that means walking away from people who are still caught in their own cycles of pain. It means creating distance from relationships that have become toxic, even if there's still love there. Because love without respect is not enough. Love without safety is not love, it's survival. And you, my dear, were not born just to survive. You were born to thrive. And that brings me to something else, something just as important. Once you begin to let go of the people, the habits, the thoughts that weigh you down, you create space. And in that space, something extraordinary can happen. You begin to reconnect with the you that existed before the disappointment, before the heartbreak, before the world told you who you were supposed to be. That reconnection is not loud, it's subtle. It starts with little things. Choosing silence when you used to numb. Saying no without guilt. Standing in front of the mirror and looking into your own eyes, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Who is this woman I've become? What does she need? What does she desire? What does she believe is still possible for her life? There is something so beautiful, so sacred about becoming intimate with yourself again. About knowing your rhythms, your triggers, your dreams. So often we get lost in the noise of the world. We get caught up in being everything to everyone, and in the process, we abandon ourselves. But you can always come back. You can always return to yourself with grace and with love, no matter how long you've been away. And when you do, when you truly begin to come home to yourself, something inside of you awakens. You start to hear that quiet inner wisdom again, that voice that says, this is who I am. This is what I need. This is where I draw the line. That voice, that's your truth. That's your compass, and it's always been there. Sometimes it just gets drowned out by the expectations of others. But once you start listening, really listening, you'll find that you already know what you need to do. You already know what brings you peace. You already know what doesn't feel right anymore. And here's the secret. When you become deeply connected to yourself, when you start honoring your truth, the whole world begins to shift. Your relationships change. Your decisions change. Your energy changes. You stop chasing things that aren't meant for you. You stop settling for halfway love. You stop apologizing for being too much or not enough. Because you finally understand you are already whole. You begin to realize that happiness is not a destination. It's a relationship with your own soul. It's in how you care for yourself when no one is watching. It's in how you speak to yourself when you make a mistake. It's in how you show up for yourself on the days when everything feels heavy, and the world feels cold. That is what real self-connection looks like. It's not just bubble baths and journaling. Although those things matter, it's about integrity. It's about honoring your own word to yourself. It's about saying, I choose me, not out of pride, but out of reverence. Reverence for your life, for your journey, for your heart. And when you choose you, when you decide to be loyal to your own healing above anyone else's expectations, life will meet you there. Opportunities will begin to align. Relationships will deepen or fall away, but you will no longer be lost. You will no longer be waiting for someone else to validate your worth, because you will have remembered the truth. Your worth was never up for debate. It was never something anyone could give or take away. It has always been yours. So yes, it starts with letting go. With releasing the past, not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more. And it continues with the daily intentional act of coming home to yourself again and again and again, until one day you look around and realize you are no longer just surviving. You are living, fully, boldly, joyfully, as the woman you were always meant to be. You can't heal what you don't acknowledge. And I want to start there, because so many of us walk through life thinking we can just push through the pain. We tell ourselves to toughen up, to get over it, to keep going, like nothing happened. We slap on a smile, pour the coffee, answer the emails, care for the family, hold the house together, and no one knows the storm we're carrying inside. But healing doesn't come from ignoring. Healing comes from facing, from naming, from sitting in the stillness long enough to say, yes, this happened and it hurt. There's something deeply powerful, deeply holy about being honest with your pain, about allowing yourself to feel what you've tried so hard to avoid. I know. We're often taught that feeling too much makes us weak. But let me tell you the truth. It's in feeling that we find our strength. It's in facing the darkness that we reclaim the light. And sometimes that means revisiting places you thought you'd sealed shut forever. Sometimes that means opening the closet of your heart and letting all those hidden memories out into the light, not to shame yourself, but to free yourself, because what you hide rules you. What you bury festers, and what you suppress comes out in other ways: anger, sadness, disconnection, even physical pain. So if you're walking around wondering why everything feels so heavy, why you feel stuck even when life looks fine on the outside, it might be time to ask, what have I not allowed myself to feel? Grief doesn't have a schedule. Trauma doesn't obey the clock. It doesn't matter how long ago it happened. If you haven't had the space, the language, or the safety to process it, it's still with you. And sometimes healing isn't about fixing, it's about witnessing. It's about putting your hand on your own heart and saying, I see you. I know this was hard. I'm not going to rush you. I'm here now. That's what healing really is. It's the sacred work of returning to the parts of yourself you had to abandon in order to survive. The child who never felt safe, the woman who silenced her voice, the version of you who thought she had to earn love by performing. Healing is about telling those parts, you're welcome here. You're safe now. We're going to do this differently. And yes, healing is messy. It's not a straight line. There are days when you feel like you've made so much progress, and then one word, one memory, one song takes you right back. That doesn't mean you failed. That means you're human. That means the wound is still tender. And when you recognize that, when you give yourself grace instead of judgment, you begin to build something powerful. Emotional resilience. You don't bounce back from pain. You grow through it. You integrate it. You carry the lessons, not the weight. You begin to understand that you can hold sadness and hope at the same time. You can grieve what was and still believe in what's possible. You can cry and still be strong. You can fall apart and still be worthy of love. That's the beautiful paradox of healing. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming more of who you really own underneath the pain. Beyond the roles, deeper than the masks, and the most miraculous part. When you commit to your healing, you start to shift everything around you. Your relationships change. Your boundaries get stronger. Your joy becomes deeper, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you are showing up with honesty, with wholeness, with courage. You're no longer pretending. You're no longer hiding. You're living as the full expression of yourself. And there's nothing more powerful than that now. I want to talk about something that becomes clearer and clearer the deeper you go in your healing. The absolute necessity of living intentionally. Because once you've done the work of peeling back the layers, once you've started to reconnect with who you really are, you realize you don't want to live on autopilot anymore. You don't want to just exist. You want to live. With purpose. With depth. With joy. That feels true, not forced. Intentional living doesn't mean every day is perfectly planned. It doesn't mean you're always in control. What it means is that you are present. You are awake. You are choosing your life, not just reacting to it. You're making decisions that reflect your values. You're surrounding yourself with people who nourish your soul. You're creating habits that align with your healing, not sabotage it. You're no longer just going through the motions. You're aligning your inner life with your outer reality. And yes, that means letting go of things that no longer serve you even if they once did. That means saying no to commitments that drain you even if people don't understand. That means spending less time pleasing others and more time honoring your truth, because your time is sacred, your energy is sacred. And when you start treating it that way, your entire life begins to shift. Living intentionally also means choosing joy not in a surface level, fake it till you make it way, but in a deep, grounded, powerful way. It means finding beauty in the ordinary. Savoring your morning tea, laughing loudly and unapologetically, saying I love you and meaning it. Holding hands, breathing in the moment, fully before it becomes a memory. It's about being here, right now, not stuck in the regrets of yesterday, not consumed by the fears of tomorrow, but here, present in your own life. Aware, grateful, alive. So many of us live waiting for someday. Someday when the kids are grown, someday when we lose the weight, someday when the relationship is fixed, someday when we finally feel ready. But the truth is, this is your life right now. This messy, beautiful, unpredictable moment is all you're guaranteed. And if you keep waiting, you'll miss it. Don't miss it. Don't let the days blur together until the years are gone and you're left wondering where you went in the middle of it. All show up, choose, speak, laugh, cry, connect, rest, dream, forgive, he'll repeat. That is intentional living. That is what it means to be fully awake to your own existence. And when you live that way, when you refuse to go numb, when you stay rooted in your truth, you don't just change your life. You light the way for others to change theirs. You become a living example of what it means to rise from the ashes with your spirit intact. You become someone who inspires others, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And let me tell you, ELE is magnetic. Real is powerful. Real is what we all crave. You don't need to do more to be worthy. You don't need to be everything to everyone. You just need to be you, fully, intentionally, honestly, and in doing so, you will create a life that not only looks good, but feels good. A life that's rooted in joy, in love, in presence. A life that even when it's heavy is still worth living. A life that belongs to you, because you chose it every step of the way. Conclusion, this is your moment. No life can feel unbearably heavy, but you have survived 100% of your worst days so far. And I promise there's more inside you than you realize. Forcing yourself to be happy isn't about denial. It's about defiance. It's looking darkness in the eye and saying, you can visit, but you don't get to live here. So today, choose happiness, not because it's easy, but because you deserve it. Now, I want to hear from you. What's one thing you can do today to spark even a moment of joy? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. If this message stirred something in you, give it a like, share it with someone who needs it, and don't forget to subscribe. Let's keep this conversation going. And if there's a topic you want us to explore next, tell me. This space, it's for you. Always. Your happiness is not a luxury. It's your birthright. Keep choosing it even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Until next time, be kind to yourself. You are more powerful than you know.